Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that this world won't. Beauty might open some doors, but it doesn't keep them open. It might turn heads, but it won't turn heaven's hand. We live in a time where the world chases the image, the aesthetic, the filter, but God chases the heart. God honors the woman whose strength doesn't come from validation, but from revelation. The woman who doesn't just dress up her body, but dresses her soul in humility, in righteousness and faith. Now listen to me, young lady, sister, queen. Beauty is a gift, but it ain't the source of your blessing. You don't need to compromise your values to feel seen. You don't need to post more skin to be appreciated. You need to walk with God, because when you walk with him, favor walks with you. When you fear him, wisdom becomes your weapon. When the storms come, not if, when your house won't fall because it wasn't built on compliments, it was built on the rock. A woman who fears the Lord, she ain't flashy, but she's firm. She ain't loud, but she's powerful. She doesn't have to chase because blessings chase her. They knock on her door because of how she walks behind closed doors. That's what sets her apart. See, there's a peace in her that makeup can't manufacture. There's a light in her that fame can't fabricate. She carries grace in her steps and fire in her prayer. Don't let the world fool you into thinking that beauty is your highest currency. The fear of God is. And when you fear him, you lack nothing. You hear me? Nothing people will ask her, what's her secret? It's not the gym. It's not the glam. It's not the followers. It's her faith. It's her walk. It's the fact that when no one's looking, she still does the right thing. She still prays. She still serves. She still forgives. And heaven sees that. So today, don't chase attention. Chase alignment. Don't chase likes. Chase legacy. Don't chase trends, chase truth. Because a woman who walks with God, she don't chase blessings. They chase her. In a world that constantly puts a spotlight on outward appearance, it's easy to believe that beauty holds the highest value. From social media platforms to magazine covers, from music videos to everyday conversations, society teaches us that physical attraction is currency. It praises the perfect smile, the sculpted body, the flawless skin, and the trending outfit. When you strip all of that away, when the lights dim and the crowd goes quiet, what remains is character. And while man looks on the outward appearance, God looks at the heart. Character is not something you can buy or filter. It's forged in the fire of discipline, molded through trials and revealed in silence. Beauty may capture attention for a moment, but character sustains relationships, builds trust, and earns respect. In the eyes of God, it's not the shine of your jewelry that matters, but the shine of your integrity. He doesn't count the steps you take on the runway. He watches the steps you take in righteousness. When God looks at a woman, he's not concerned with the shade of her lipstick or the length of her lashes. He's concerned with how she treats people when no one's watching. He's concerned with her patience in pain, her kindness to the broken, her honesty in pressure, and her humility in success. God values a heart that trembles at his word more than a body that turns heads. He values quiet strength, not loud self-promotion. A gentle and quiet spirit is of great worth in his sight, not because it's weak, but because it's rooted in something unshakable. Character means doing right when it's inconvenient. It means forgiving when you have every reason not to. It means choosing truth when lies are more profitable. It means loving people who can't repay you. God watches these things. He honors them. He blesses those who walk in them. Consider the story of David. The prophet Samuel went to anoint the next king. He saw David's older brothers, strong, handsome, warrior-like men. But God said no. One after the other, Samuel looked and thought, this must be the one. And God kept saying no. Then came David, the youngest, the overlooked, the one in the field. I said, that's him. Why? Because God doesn't see like man sees. God looks at the heart. That principle hasn't changed. He still looks at the heart. He sees the woman working 2 jobs and still finds time to pray. He sees the mother who raises her children in truth and grace. He sees the single woman choosing purity over popularity. He sees the one who chooses faith over fear, character over convenience. The world may never give you a standing ovation for your integrity, but heaven does. Heaven notices when you say no to temptation, when you choose modesty in a world of exposure, when you choose prayer over pettiness, when you walk away from gossip, when you choose to build instead of break. Those choices may not get you followers, but they get you favor. Beauty can get you in the room, but character keeps you there. Beauty might win attention, but character wins souls. You can gain applause for your looks and still be empty inside. You can be envied by others, but have no peace. That's why God calls you deeper. He's not impressed by outer appearances. He made you beautiful. He's already seen your face. Now he wants to shape your heart. God calls women to be more than just admired. He calls them to be anchored. Anchored in truth, anchored in purpose, anchored in love. The Proverbs 31 woman wasn't praised for her looks. She was praised for her wisdom, her strength, her kindness, her fear of the Lord. It literally says, each charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord shall be praised. That kind of woman, she can't be shaken by the trends because she's rooted in truth. Your character will lead you through storms that beauty can't shelter you from. When life gets real, when people disappoint you, when the unexpected hits, it's your faith, your integrity, your resilience that carry you, not your wardrobe, not your skincare routine, not your online presence. Character is what holds you up when everything else is falling down. Character is also about consistency. It's not about being perfect. It's about being real and striving to be better. It's about asking for forgiveness when you mess up. It's about owning your mistakes. It's about showing up with honesty and love even when it's hard. God values that. He cherishes that because it reflects him. The world says you need to glow up to be worthy, but God says you're worthy because you were made in his image. The glow he wants to see is not on your face, but in your spirit. The light he put in you was meant to shine from the inside out. It's not about being flawless. It's about being faithful. When a woman walks in character, there's a beauty about her that can't be explained. It's not loud, but it's magnetic. It's not flashy, but it's unforgettable. Her peace becomes her perfume. Her words carry weight. Her presence carries comfort. She's not just beautiful to look at. She's beautiful to follow, beautiful to learn from, beautiful to build with, beautiful to trust. There are women who look perfect in pictures but are broken in spirit. And there are women who the world overlooks, but heaven celebrates because of the way they walk, the way they serve, the way they honor God in secret. The applause of men is temporary, but the approval of God is eternal. Character is also contagious. When you walk in love, you give others permission to do the same. When you walk in truth, you become a mirror that reflects light. When you lead with grace, you open doors for healing. The more you build your character, the more God can trust you with influence. Because he knows you won't break people. You'll bless them. So while the world runs after fleeting beauty, God is building something deeper in you. Something that time can't touch, something that storms can't shake, something that opinions can't destroy. And that something is your character. Blessings are not random. They don't just appear out of thin air or fall on people without purpose. They are deeply connected to obedience, to walking in alignment with divine instruction, to honoring the voice of God, even when it's inconvenient, even when it costs you comfort, even when it feels like no one is watching. In a world that celebrates independence and doing what feels good, obedience might seem outdated. But in the kingdom of God, obedience is the access point to favor. It's the bridge between the promise and its manifestation. There's something about obedience that moves the heart of God. It's not about legalism or fear-based compliance. True obedience flows from relationship, from trust, from reverence, from surrender. When a person says yes to God, even when they don't understand the outcome, that yes becomes a magnet for heaven's attention. The Bible says, if you are willing and obedient, you shall eat the good of the land. That promise doesn't say if you are perfect or flawless or famous. It says if you are willing, if your heart leans toward his will, and obedient, if your actions match your faith, then provision, protection, and promotion are yours. Obedience isn't glamorous. It won't always make sense to people. Sometimes it looks like walking away from a relationship you've wanted for years because God said, let go. Sometimes it's staying silent when everything in you wants to clap back. Sometimes it's forgiving someone who never apologized. Sometimes it's starting the business when you have no resources, or tithing when your budget is tight, or staying pure when temptation is loud. Obedience is costly, but it's never empty. Every act of obedience plants a seed that will grow into harvest in due time. God does not bless rebellion. He loves us endlessly, no matter our condition, but his blessings flow through order. When we step out of alignment, we step out of the current where his favor flows. Think about it like electricity. The power is always available, but you've got to plug into the right source. Obedience is how you plug into God's power. It's how you stay connected to his plans. When you obey, even when it's hard, you're telling God, I trust your way more than mine. That's the kind of heart he blesses. Look at the life of Abraham. He was asked to leave everything he knew, his home, his people, his comfort, and go to a land God would show him. Not a place with a map, not a place with coordinates, just a promise. And Abraham obeyed step by step in faith. Because of that obedience, he became the father of many nations. His legacy still speaks today. Blessings followed his obedience, not just for him, but for generations to come. There's a ripple effect to obedience. Your yes doesn't just bless you. It blesses your children. It blesses your marriage. It blesses your community. Every time you choose God's way over your own, you are shifting the atmosphere for everyone connected to you. You may not see the result immediately, but make no mistake. Heaven takes note. Even Jesus, the Son of God, had to obey. In the Garden of Gethsemane, he prayed with agony, asking if the cup of suffering could pass from him. But then he said the most powerful words, nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. That obedience changed eternity. That obedience opened the gates of salvation for all mankind. If the Savior needed to obey, how much more should we? Obedience doesn't mean life will be perfect. It doesn't mean you won't face trials, but it does mean that you will be covered. It means that God will sustain you, strengthen you, and surround you with favor as with a shield. There's a peace that comes with walking in obedience, a peace that surpasses understanding, because you know you are exactly where God wants you to be. Sometimes we think blessings are only financial or material, but some of the greatest blessings are unseen. Peace in the middle of chaos, clarity in confusion, strength when you should be falling apart. These blessings are often birthed through obedience. When you follow God's instruction, he releases supernatural resources. He gives you the right connections. He aligns the right opportunities. He shields you from what was meant to harm you. Obedience becomes your covering. It's easy to obey when the path is clear, when the reward is obvious. But true obedience is tested in the unseen. When God says move, but doesn't say where. When he says wait, but doesn't say how long, that's when trust is proven. That's when obedience becomes an offering. And those moments are the ones that unlock the deepest blessings. The enemy of obedience is pride. That's enough. Pride says, I know better. I'll do it my way. But humility is the soil where obedience grows. It says, even if I don't understand, I choose to believe. It says, God, you are wiser than me. Lead me and I'll follow. That kind of heart posture becomes a target for God's favor. When you humble yourself under God's mighty hand, in due time, he will lift you up. Some people are chasing blessings that only obedience can unlock. They're working, striving, networking, marketing, and yet doors stay shut because favor doesn't flow through effort alone. It flows through alignment. Here, when you are obedient to God, he will open doors no man can shut. He will send provision from places you never expected. He will turn rejection into redirection. That's the power of obedience. It places you in the flow of God's will where miracles are not rare, they're normal. Sometimes obedience means being still. In a world that values hustle, God may tell you to rest, to be still and know he is God, to wait on him, not rush into your own plans. That kind of obedience takes discipline. It takes surrender. But in that stillness, blessings begin to chase you down, not because you earned them, but because you were positioned to receive them. There are blessings with your name on them, tied to your next act of obedience. There's healing, favor, restoration, influence, and breakthrough waiting for you to say, yes, Lord. Sometimes that yes is whispered through tears. Sometimes it's shouted with joy. Sometimes it's trembling and unsure. But as long as it's sincere, God honors it. Obedience is not about performance. It's about relationship. It's not about impressing God. You can't impress the one who made you. It's about trusting him enough to follow his voice. It's about loving him enough to say no to the world and yes to his word. When you live like that, blessings don't just happen. They follow you. They chase you down, not because of who you are, but because of who you've chosen to follow. Blessings are drawn to obedience because obedience is evidence of faith. And without faith, it is impossible to please God. Faith isn't just believing God exists. It's believing he's worth obeying, that his way is better, that his timing is perfect, that his commands are good. When your life reflects that kind of faith, heaven responds. You don't need to manipulate outcomes when you walk in obedience. You don't need to scheme or strive. Just obey. Take the next right step. Speak the truth in love. Serve without applause. Give when it's hard. Trust when it's scary. And watch how the blessings of God, real blessings, lasting blessings, find their way to your door. Inner strength is not about how much weight you can lift, how loud your voice is, or how unbothered you appear in front of others. It's a quiet power forged in unseen places where battles are fought in silence and victories are not always recognized by the world. It's the ability to stay grounded when everything around you is shaking. It's choosing patience when anger feels easier, choosing hope when disappointment tries to win, choosing truth when lies would bring temporary relief. And this kind of strength, this inner resilience, this unshakable courage of spirit draws the attention of heaven. It attracts divine reward, not because of performance, but because it reflects the character of someone who trusts God deeply, even in the fire. Inner strength comes from struggle. It's developed, not gifted. No one wakes up with it fully formed. It's built in seasons of loss, rejection, failure, and heartbreak. It's the result of choosing not to give up when giving up seemed like the only logical choice. Every time you kept praying when God seemed silent, every time you forgave when it hurt, every time you stood tall when life knocked you down, that's when strength was forming. That's when your roots were growing deeper. That's when your spirit was being prepared to handle the weight of divine reward. God doesn't just bless potential. He blesses preparation. And inner strength is one of the most powerful forms of preparation. It's to the God, I'm ready. I've been through the valley and I still trust you. I faced the storm and I'm still standing. That kind of heart, that kind of endurance cannot be ignored. Heaven watches the quiet strength of a person who refuses to be defined by pain. That strength speaks louder than any platform. It becomes a testimony. It becomes a light in dark places. And when God sees that, he doesn't just pat you on the back. He opens doors. He shifts atmospheres. He releases reward. Look at the life of Joseph. Betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, thrown into prison. Yet he never lost his integrity. He never allowed bitterness to harden him. He served faithfully in every place he was planted. That's inner strength. That's the kind of strength that says, even if I'm hidden, I'll still honor God. Even if I'm misunderstood, I won't stop showing up with excellence. And in due time, God took him from the prison to the palace. The reward was real, but it was his character that qualified him for it. Not just his talent, not just his dreams, his strength under pressure. Divine reward is not always about money or fame. Sometimes the reward is peace that passes understanding. Sometimes it's supernatural favor in impossible situations. Sometimes it's the right people coming into your life at the right moment. Sometimes it's the healing of a heart that should have been permanently broken. These are the rewards that no man can manufacture. They come from above, and they are drawn to those who walk in quiet strength and consistent faith. Inner strength doesn't mean you never cry. It means you cry and still keep walking. It doesn't mean you never get tired. It means you rest, but you don't quit. It doesn't mean you always feel brave. It means you keep showing up, even when fear whispers that you shouldn't. That kind of strength is rare. And because it's rare, it's powerful. It's what turns ordinary people into overcomers. It's what makes the broken become builders. It's what transforms pain into purpose. God sees what others miss. He sees the woman holding her family together with prayers and tears. He sees the man getting up at 5 a.m. every day to provide, even when his body is exhausted. He sees the students studying with no support, hoping to change their future. He sees the leader who encourages everyone else, even while fighting private battles. That's strength. That's courage. That's what attracts the favor of heaven. Sometimes people wonder why God blesses someone who's not flashy, not loud, not known. It's because God doesn't measure strength the way the world does. He doesn't need a show. He looks for substance. And when he finds someone who has been tested and remains faithful, someone who has lost much but still loves deeply, someone who has endured disappointment but never stopped believing, that's the one he lifts up. That's the one he trusts with influence, with opportunity, with reward. Inner strength is also what allows you to carry the weight of blessing when it comes. Because blessing is not just about receiving, it's about stewarding. When God gives you more, it requires more of you. And if you haven't been strengthened on the inside, the reward can crush you instead of bless you. That's why the process matters. That's why the waiting, the trials, the closed doors, they all matter. They're shaping you, not to destroy you, but to prepare you. People often want the reward without the journey. They want the crown without the cross. But divine reward follows those who have allowed God to shape their character before giving them a platform. Inner strength is the proof that you've been through the shaping. It's the quiet yes to God in the wilderness that prepares you to carry the loud blessing in the spotlight. And when you receive that reward, you're not arrogant. You're grateful. You don't brag, you testify. You don't hoard it. You use it to serve, to build, to lift others. When you carry inner strength, you don't need to announce yourself. Your presence speaks for you. Your peace speaks for you. Your perseverance speaks for you. And God honors that. He said, "Oh, when you humble yourself under my mighty hand, I will lift you up in due time." That due time is often longer than we'd like, but it's never late. It comes when you're ready. Not when you feel ready, but when God sees your heart and knows that you can handle what he's about to give. Sometimes the greatest sign of strength is not fighting, but surrendering. Not pushing, but trusting. Not controlling, but releasing. It's the strength to say, "Hey, God, I don't understand, but I still believe." That simple faith wrapped in surrender becomes an invitation for God to move, and he will. Not because you earned it, but because you trusted him enough to endure. There are rewards that only the strong receive, not the physically strong, but the spiritually mature. Those who've allowed God to prune them, break them, mold them. Those who walked through the fire and didn't lose their worship. Those who faced the storm and still said, "It is well with my soul." Those who've had every reason to walk away, but stayed planted in purpose. These are the ones heaven smiles on. These are the ones who reap in joy after sowing in tears. You don't need to prove your strength to anyone. Just keep walking with God. Keep standing in truth. Keep doing the right thing when it's hard. Keep believing when it's dark. Your strength is not in your volume. It's in your endurance. And God sees you. He sees your consistency, sees your faithfulness. He sees your strength. And when the time is right, he will reward you openly for what you cultivated in secret. Our purpose is a force that cannot be measured by applause. It is not dependent on visibility or recognition. It doesn't require a stage, a spotlight, or a million followers to have value. Purpose is eternal. It is planted deep within a soul before the world ever has a chance to influence it. It is the reason you were born, the reason you survived the things that should have taken you out, the reason you wake up with a burden that won't leave you alone. And that purpose, when pursued faithfully, will always be greater than popularity. Popularity is loud, but it's fleeting. It comes with trends, and it leaves with trends. It changes based on likes, shares, opinions, and perception. One day the world loves you, the next it forgets you. But purpose does not fluctuate. Purpose is steady, even when the world is unstable. It anchors your decisions. It gives meaning to your pain. It shapes your identity, not around approval, but around assignment. And when a person chooses purpose over popularity, they choose depth over display. They choose to matter in eternity more than in a moment. There is a pressure today to be seen, to be validated by metrics, to be known, admired, applauded. But if your goal is to be known by people, you will often compromise who you are to maintain their attention. Popularity demands performance. It asks you to bend, to edit, to mold yourself into who others want you to be. But purpose asks you to stand, to hold your ground, to be who you were created to be, even when no one's clapping. Living for popularity may bring temporary reward, but it won't sustain you in the quiet nights. It won't heal your wounds. It won't help you when the applause dies down and you're left with your thoughts. But purpose will hold you. It will remind you that you were made for something more. It will speak to you in your lowest moments. It will pull you back when you're tempted to give up. Because purpose is personal. It's divine. It's not crafted by man. It's whispered by God. Think about people in history who changed the world. They weren't always popular. In fact, many were rejected, ridiculed, or misunderstood in their time. But they had purpose. Martin Luther King Jr., Mother Teresa, Nelson Mandela, Rosa Parks. These people didn't pursue popularity. They pursued justice, love, truth, and conviction. And because of that, they left a legacy. Their purpose was greater than their comfort, and it demanded sacrifice. The same applies today. Your purpose will not always make sense to those around you. It might cause you to walk away from opportunities that promise exposure but lack integrity. It might cause you to speak up when silence would be safer. It might call you to stay in the shadows for a season while God builds you in secret. And that's okay, because purpose has its own timeline. It doesn't move at the pace of popularity. It moves at the pace of obedience. Purpose will often feel heavier than popularity because it comes with responsibility. When you walk in purpose, you are carrying something that can shift lives, break chains, and birth transformation. That's why it can't be rushed. That's why it's often misunderstood. People may ask why you're not out there more, why you don't chase the spotlight, why you're not following the crowd. And your answer is simple. You're following your assignment. Popularity looks like success from the outside, but purpose builds success from the inside out. It doesn't just give you a name, it gives you substance. It doesn't just open doors, it builds the character required to walk through them. That's why you see so many people reach fame but still feel empty, because applause without assignment leads to anxiety. Influence without integrity leads to collapse. What you build on popularity alone will eventually crumble. But what you build on purpose will withstand the test of time. There's a stillness that comes with walking in purpose. A peace that doesn't need to prove anything. You don't have to be the loudest in the room. You don't have to chase validation. You're not performing. You're aligned. You're not hustling to be seen. You're moving with intentionality. You know that the right doors will open when they're supposed to. You know that your value doesn't come from followers, but from faithfulness. And that allows you to move differently. Purpose is also what gives pain meaning. When you've suffered, when you've been through betrayal, loss, or heartbreak, purpose is what turns that pain into power. It's what allows you to encourage someone else who's going through what you survived. It's what makes your story matter. Because every wound, every scar, every dark night becomes a chapter in the message you were born to carry. And that message isn't for likes, it's for healing. The temptation to trade purpose for popularity is real. It's tempting to do what everyone else is doing, to mimic success, to go viral. But going viral doesn't mean you're victorious. Getting attention doesn't mean you're walking in your assignment. Sometimes the loudest voices are the furthest from truth. And sometimes the quiet, consistent servant is the one God is using to shift nations. Even Jesus, the greatest example of purpose, was not popular in the way the world expected. He didn't seek status. He didn't chase crowd. In fact, he often withdrew from them. He spoke truth that offended the powerful. He served the lowly. He walked with the broken. His purpose led him to a cross, not a throne. But through that purpose, salvation was born. That's what purpose does. It goes beyond self. It sacrifices. It builds. It blesses. When you choose purpose, you choose legacy over lights. You choose to make an impact that outlives you. You choose to pour into what God has called you to do, even if it means being overlooked by people, because you understand something deeper, that heaven sees you. And what is birthed in obedience will always be honored, even if man never gives you credit. Purpose is not always glamorous. It may call you into rooms where you're the only one who believes what you believe. It may require long seasons of preparation where nothing looks like it's working. It may call you to walk alone, but every step is worth it. Because when you live with purpose, your soul is full, your path is clear, and your legacy is eternal. It's not wrong to be known. It's not wrong to have influence. But when popularity becomes the goal, purpose becomes diluted. You weren't created just to be liked. You were created to make a difference. And the truth is, sometimes your purpose will make you unpopular. It will challenge norms, break chains, and upset systems. But that's the cost of being called. You can't fulfill a divine calling while trying to fit into a worldly mold. You can't run after destiny while chasing trends. Purpose requires your whole heart. It requires focus, discipline, and courage, but it will also reward you with peace, impact, and alignment that popularity could never offer. In the end, it's not about how many people knew your name. It's about whether you answered to the one who gave you your name. It's about whether you fulfilled the reason you were born. Whether you use your gifts to build something that matters, whether you chose the narrow path when the wide one was easier, whether you live for something bigger than yourself. When it's all said and done, beauty may fade, applause may stop, and the world may forget your name. But what God builds through obedience, inner strength, and purpose will never be forgotten. Blessings don't chase outward appearance. They pursue the woman whose heart is aligned with heaven. Obedience unlocks doors no man can close. Inner strength shapes you for what you're called to carry. And purpose will outlast every trend, every opinion, every season of silence. So don't chase what's temporary. Stand in truth, walk in faith, and let your life be a quiet storm of power, humility, and divine favor. Because when you fear God, stay rooted in purpose, and remain faithful through the fire, you don't chase blessings, chase you.